Hi guys, Amanda Huggett here, editor of School Bus Fleet Magazine. I am here in Princeton, Minnesota with a very special guest. We have Connie Duff, who's been a school bus driver for 53 years. So we're going to learn her story as it is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day and Love the Bus Month. Connie, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. Now, am I right? It's 53 years that you've been driving.
As of the end of the school year here, start of like June 1st. It'll be 53 years, right?
Okay. So I can't do the math offhand, but tell me, when you started, how did you get started driving a school bus?
I started in 1972, and had horses, and I had a gal I met when I moved to Princeton. I moved to Princeton in 1968, and she had a couple horses, and we got to talking, and the company that I was working for burnt down.
Oh.
Which was Griswold Manufacturing, which was not too far from where I lived, east of Princeton. So I was looking for another job, and she says, why don't you see about driving school bus? And I thought, oh, I don't know if I could do that or not.
Why did you hesitate?
Just because I had never even ridden a school bus.
Okay.
So I had no idea what that involved. So I went in to the bus company and applied, and the lady who was the boss said, we don't have any openings right now unless you want to be a sub. And I said, no, I want something, full-time, that I'm working all the time. Yeah. So that was in the spring, and that fall she called me and she said, we have a route open up, why don't you come in? So I came in, and in those days, they had no training for bus drivers.
Oh.
I went out for 1 hour in the country with a driver, and the only concern they really had was, could you drive a stick shift? Because they were all stick shift buses. Uh-huh. Yeah. And because there weren't a lot of women that drove stick shifts, and I'd learned to drive in a four-wheel drive Scout when I was 18. So I had no trouble with a stick shift. And we drove around the country for an hour, and we didn't do anything about practicing student pickups or anything. It was just, could you handle the bus and back it up and all that? And she said, looks good, you can start tomorrow. I said, you mean picking up kids? Yes, tomorrow. So it was learn as you go.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And how did it go?
Well, it went pretty good. I wasn't prepared for all those kids. And of course, a new driver, they're going to try you out right away.
Yeah.
And I had no training for how to handle these kids. None at all. So it was just kind of learn as you go, and what works and what doesn't work.
Well, but obviously you stuck with it, because here we are,
yes,
50 years later, plus. So.
And I have to tell you this, we got paid once a month. The buses were owned by one of the car dealers in town. They owned the buses.
Okay.
And so we got paid once a month, and my first take-home paycheck was a whopping $220 for a whole month.
Times have gotten a little better.
Well, gas was 30 cents a gallon in those days, and the more I did it, the more I liked it. I enjoyed, being around the kids and the camaraderie of the other drivers. You get to know all the other drivers, and so, and then I was heavily into horses.
Okay.
And showed horses, so the schedule worked great for me because I had off between bus routes to do my riding and training, and I had weekends off to go to my shows, summers off.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect job for me.
Yeah. And so what makes you stick with it even today?
I've done it for so many years, and it's like part of my life. It's my priority is my job.
Yeah.
So I'm just stuck with it for so many years, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the people, and I like the company I work for, and I love this facility.
Yeah.
This is really, I was there when they built the old one, and that was state of the art in those days.
So right now you work for Palmer Bus, but you used to work directly for the district, is that right?
No, I've worked for 5 different bus companies in Princeton.
Okay.
Yeah. We had Odegaard Motors, we had Peterson Bus, we had Laidlaw, we had Minnesota Central, and we had Palmer.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've encountered over the years?
Definitely traffic.
Okay, more than students.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I drive right now exclusively special needs students.
Awesome.
And I have a monitor that helps with them, and they wear seatbelts.
Okay.
I don't really have any issues with the students, but traffic. The traffic in Princeton from what it was 50 years ago to now is just unbelievable. You know, Princeton was a pretty small town. I think we had 12 buses.
So when you started, you mentioned there was no training.
Right.
And you learned on the job, but how has that progressed since? And especially driving a special needs route?
After I had driven for a few years, we had a driver that became our trainer, and that was Jan Rosen. And she drove actually for 45 years before she retired, and she was the first woman bus driver ever in Princeton.
Wow.
Yep. So she taught me pretty much 90% of what I know about driving. What she would do was she would go out with you on your route. Every driver, she did this. She'd go out with you on your route, and she would give you a critique at the end of how you could do this better. It was all constructive.
Yeah.
How you could handle kids' situations better, but she was there to monitor and see how you were doing as a driver, and I just have the greatest respect for her.
Is she still driving?
Oh, no, she retired when we had, I think it was Minnesota Central. She retired, she had 45 years. And at the time, I thought, oh, I'm going to try to beat that record.
You did.
Now, I want to tell you that the Guinness World Record for the longest driving school bus is 66 years.
Oh, wow. So are you trying to beat that?
Well, it's something that just recently came up when I was scrolling through a Facebook group for bus drivers. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, there's something to go for.
There's your next goal, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, you also mentioned that the students were one of the hardest things when you first started. So what have you learned about managing student behavior since, and especially when there's a kid who's struggling on the bus? How do you approach that now?
Well, we had no training to handle students on the bus, and in those days, the driver handled pretty much the discipline.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, you could throw a kid off the bus.
Yeah.
That was really different in those days. Right. Yeah. So they knew that if they didn't behave, you could throw them off. And so they were pretty good. Occasionally you'd have, you know, a kid that really gave you a lot of trouble, but the school nowadays is so much more taking a part in the discipline and the helping the kids to learn how to do the correct behavior, which I think is more important than punishing them for bad behavior, is teach them how to do the correct thing, especially younger kids. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Have there been any like emergency situations you've had to?
I had a student one time, not a special needs. This was before I used to drive the bigger buses.
Yeah.
Somehow was reaching down under the seat for something, and there was a piece of metal under there, and he cut his head open, and he was bleeding, and we couldn't stop the bleeding. So we had to call the ambulance. That was a little scary.
Yeah.
So
I assume he was fine in the end.
Oh yeah. But you know, that's what you have to do if they're bleeding and you can't stop the bleeding and it's an injury. You know, they have to get medical help more than what the driver can do.
Right. Well, let's shift to something positive. Tell us about some of the students over the years and any funny or memorable moments that come to mind.
One day I'm driving my route and the kids are all looking at the ceiling and laughing, and everybody's laughing, and I'm thinking, what is going on? Because in my mirror, I can't see the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I pulled over to find out what's going on, and here somebody had taped a Kotex to the ceiling of the bus. I'm driving my route, and there's two middle school boys sitting together a couple seats back, but I can hear them talking. And they're looking at something in their lap. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, we're just looking at something. And I said, okay, well, one says, oh, doesn't that look like the teacher? Ha, ha. And they're laughing. And so I thought, I better find out what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I pull the bus over, go back there, and here they have a Playboy magazine.
Oh, no.
And I took it away from him, and I said, I don't think you should have this on the bus. And he says, you better give that back to me. I got that sold for $5 in school.
Now, are these the kinds of things that you end up reporting?
Yes, I took it in and gave it to my boss. I can talk about him now. I'm not going to mention his name because he's dead. But I handed it to him over his desk, and he says, oh, I'll take care of that. And he puts it in his drawer.
To properly dispose of it, I'm sure.
I'm sure he did. There's been some scary things, too, I should bring up because it's a safety issue.
Oh, yeah. Please, what?
We were taught when my first bus route, never move the bus if you don't know where the child is. They get off the bus to cross the road, and I had a little boy and his sister, and they got off the bus, and she crossed the road, and then somebody distracted me about something. They came up and were doing something, and I looked, and I saw her going, and I didn't see him. And I thought, I'm not moving this bus until I know where he's at.
Yeah.
So I put the parking brake on, I got out. He had crawled underneath the bus. He had dropped something and it had rolled under the bus.
Oh, gosh. Good thing you didn't move.
Oh, that sticks with you forever. And then another time I was dropping a student off, and his little sister would walk down with the mom. This was a special needs student.
Yeah.
Would walk down with the mom to meet him at his stop. And the little girl would come down, and she was maybe, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years old, if that. And she would always sit there and wait. And then when the mom was talking to me, and we got ready to leave, and I didn't see the little girl. And I said, I think her name is Emily go? Oh, she probably ran up to the house. And I said, no, I want to know where she went.
Yeah.
I want to know where she went. So I got out and looked, and she had crawled up on my tire. I don't know why would you do that, but kids do crazy things.
So what's something that you think someone who doesn't drive a school bus may not understand about what it's like to drive the bus?
I think that they think you just get in there and you drive, and that's it. There's nothing else involved, that you just drive.
No kids in the back.
And there's so much more. You have to be able to do first aid. You have to be able to drive the bus safely. It's very mentally straining. You have to watch out for traffic. People drive crazy because we're driving at 2 of the worst times of day. When people are going to work in the morning, they're not thinking about what they're doing, and when they're coming home at night, same thing. And they're just, they're not watching for buses.
Yeah.
And they're doing sometimes some very dangerous and stupid things.
What about, is there something you would tell parents or even our lawmakers or the general public about what they should know about school bus drivers?
Well, I think most drivers, they don't think of it as just a job. It's a vocation.
Yeah.
And I don't think that drivers get the respect.
Yeah.
I think people think that school bus driving is just, a low-level job. And you have to go through a lot of training. And you have to really, it's like I said, it's very mentally stressful. And people say, how can you get tired? You just sit there and drive.
Oh, it's so much more than that, right?
Well, yeah, and I drive like 2 tiers. Well, most of the drivers do. You drive 2 tiers, so you go out in the morning. I leave at 6. I have to drive and pick up my monitor. I pick up my first child at 6:35. And you drive then you have to come back. You might have to fuel the bus. You might have to clean the bus. I cleaned the windows this morning, like in the back, because they get so dirty. So assume you might get done by, say, 9. So that's 3 hours in the morning. And then you've got another 3 hours at night. So you've been in that bus seat 6 hours a day, watching out for crazy people driving.
Yeah, and keeping those kids safe.
And keeping the kids safe. I think a lot of people don't understand how really demanding the job is and how much training you have to go through. Right. They think, oh, anybody can drive a bus.
No.
It's not as easy as you think, but I think the more you do it, the better it gets. And one thing that I've found is that you drive the same roads every day and you kind of get a little complacent, and you can't let yourself do that.
Yeah.
You know, you have to just, you never know when a deer is going to jump out. I had a deer jump out in front of me this morning.
Yeah, in rural Minnesota, that happens a lot.
Yeah. The deer are really moving around this time of the year. Yeah. So, I mean, you just have to be alert all the time and watch what's going on around you, watch the sides of the roads leading in, people running stop signs. So, yeah, it's very mental.
So you mentioned school bus drivers don't get a lot of appreciation. We hear that a lot, unfortunately. But thankfully, we do have at least one day that is school bus driver.
I think they do now.
Okay, good.
Years ago, no, they didn't.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. We had the first company that I worked for, they had a lady that did the payroll, which was done in the car dealer's office. And one of our drivers had something she didn't think was right on her paycheck. So she went in to talk to the lady who did the payroll and wanted this straightened out. And the lady's comment was, well, don't make such a fuss about it. You're just a bus driver. Mm. And that's always stuck in my mind that, you know, people used to think that. And I think now bus drivers are more appreciated.
Good.
Especially by the school.
Yeah.
And the bus company.
Yeah. What kind of appreciation means the most to you? How can transportation directors or your site managers make you feel special for the work you do?
Telling you that, you know, when you do something that's above and beyond.
Yeah.
That you're appreciated, yeah. And I think Palmer Bus is excellent doing that. Other companies, not so much. Some of the companies that I've driven for in Princeton, there was one in particular, and I'm not going to name any names, but they had the idea that drivers were just expendable. You know, this one, we didn't like what you did, you're fired, we'll get another one. And it was just, you know, drivers are coming and going. And unfortunately, that isn't always the case.
Well, what advice would you give to a new school bus driver?
Don't get in a hurry. If the roads are bad, it's better to be safe than to be in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's hard because as a bus driver, you want to be here at this time and you're here at that time, you're at this stop sign at that time, but that isn't always going to be. So you have to just not be in a hurry, do things right. With the kids, like in a big bus, you have to get right away, explain the rules to them so that they know the consequences if they don't follow the bus rules. But you have to start right away. Kids know when they have a new driver and they're going to, right away, a lot of them are going to try to see what they can get by with, you know, see what they can get to you.
They got to test the limits.
Now with special needs, I don't have that issue.
Good.
But when I drove a big bus with a lot of kids, that was an issue. Special needs, you have a different set of problems.
What are some of those problems?
Well, you have kids that don't understand. You can say something to them, and they might not understand what you're saying because they don't have the comprehension that other kids might. So you have to keep repeating things to them and explain things to them very clearly, and you have to keep repeating, even if you have to tell them every day, you know. You have to sit down, you can't put your legs in the aisle, you can't have your backpack in the aisle, and that kind of stuff, and explain to them why they can't. So I think you just have to take more time with them.
Yeah.
And you have to be more, they're not doing things because they're trying to get you. They don't understand a lot of things.
Connie, those are all the questions I have for you. But is there anything else you want our viewers, our readers, or your fellow transportation professionals to know?
I just want to say that it's been great working for Palmer Bus, and I just think that they're just a wonderful company, and they really treat their drivers right, and they are very safety oriented, which I like. Some of the companies I've worked for have not been that way, and they just felt that their drivers were expendable. So I think you're more valued here, and they do our training that we have to go through continually. I mean, people think, you know, you do your initial training to be a bus driver, but we have monthly training we have to go through all the time. In fact, tomorrow we have a session here for special needs drivers and monitors only.
Okay, great.
But I think a lot of people I've said, oh, you should go try, driving school. Oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. I could never handle all those kids. So I think that a lot of people have the idea that you are driving 60 crazy kids that are just, and it isn't that way.
Yeah.
It isn't that way. Not anymore. It used to be maybe, but it isn't that way anymore. You have help from your company, you have help from the school, and I just think it's so different than it was 50 years ago. It's just not even like in the same realm. It's just different. My closing thoughts is we need more bus drivers.
Well, Connie, you are a gem. You are a legend. And we look forward to seeing you do this for 13 or so more years. So you can break another record. Thank you again, Connie, and thank you, Palmer Bus, for allowing us to do this interview on an amazing school bus driver. Of course, follow along for more updates and videos from School Bus Fleet. Thank you.